Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Right now it's 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern, but soon to change back on Monday to 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. So remember, on Monday, I want to say that's going to be January 26th, the last week of January. Wow, you guys were already here and it will go back to 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. So thank you so much for joining me here this morning. And as Dr. C likes to say, happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope everybody out there is staying warm. I know it's chilly. We've got this winter blast coming up. I told my husband, I said, I find it fascinating and a little bit funny because here in Georgia, they're just like, remember, you got to get milk and eggs and bread. I was like, those are three of the most perishable things you could ever buy. Like, so electricity goes out, what are we doing? You can't keep any of that stuff. Well, you could probably keep the bread. You got to be careful about the bread because apparently, if it stays longer than 2 weeks, and also I think there was somebody who actually ran it under a sink, the bread, and they squeezed it out like a sponge, and it did not crumble. It did not fall apart, and they had it like for a few weeks, and there was no mold. So yeah, there's that. You can always make bread, if you still have electricity during the winter time. So there's ways around it, but yeah, I wouldn't be into like perishable foods, but I would say non-perishable foods like canned foods, dried beans, because actually things that I'm learning, trying to do a little bit more raw vegan. This going into this year is like you can sprout some of your food. So like lentils, you can sprout them, and let's see, mung beans, you can sprout mung beans, you can sprout alfalfa seeds, broccoli seeds, and all those take is actually rinsing in water. So as long as you have a water source, okay, you can do it without electricity. You know, just saying, just putting it out there. Non-perishable items. Okay, and with that, let's get into our kids' corner.
Is it money, luck, or something else? Meet Ryan, a 10-year-old rich kid who learned practice, not wealth, is what shines the brightest. Ryan thought being rich was enough. He believed talent came easy and never practiced his guitar. Yet he dreamed of becoming a star everyone admired. One day at school, Ryan signed up to play at the talent show. But when he tried, his guitar sounded awful and everyone laughed. Ryan sat alone and sad. A kind music teacher told him, "Stars aren't born, they are made. Practice is the secret to every success." From that day, Ryan practiced daily. His fingers hurt, his arms tired, but he refused to stop. Slowly, the ugly noise became sweet music. Weeks later, Ryan felt stronger. Music flowed from his heart. He realized practice wasn't punishment, it was the path to his dream. At the next talent show, Ryan shined like never before. He learned true stars aren't rich or lucky. They're people who never gave up on practice.
Yeah. Never give up on practice. Yeah. Michael Jordan, the same way. Like he would practice still, but the street lamps would go out, and even sometimes he would stay there afterwards. And even when he still got in college, he still made mistakes, but he never stopped practicing. He never stopped learning. He never stopped growing. And then we got to see the greatness that he became in his latter years. So don't give up, little guys out there, little women out there. Make sure that you are practicing diligently and never giving up. And so, with that, we're going to go into our prayer to honor God with our body. So, God, please guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So, I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect my ears and help me listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, please set a guard over my mouth. Lord, help keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. And God, please help me to honor you with my body. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as I walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And just remembering that prayer daily, diligently, You know, it's practice, right? We have to put actually following God's word into practice so other people can see it. And I know, it's very contentious being a disciple. And I tend to use the word disciple more because that's what we're called to do. That's what Jesus said. He called us to be disciples according to Matthew 28, verses 18 through 20. Yeah. And then the Christians, the disciples were later called Christians at Antioch. The word Christian only appears 3 times in the Bible, where the word disciple appears over 200 times. So we have to remember that, right? And we don't want to be watered down. We want the gospel to be attractive to others. And it's sad how people have used the Bible to control other people. They've used the Bible to manipulate people. And that's really sad, because God, wants us all saved. But it also says in the Bible that there's going to be false prophets, that there's going to be people out there to do harmful things, even with his word. So we have to make sure that we are staying diligent, right? We really, really do have to make sure that we are doing what is right. And with that, I'm going to get into some of these articles. Now, the first one, I came across this on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I found it fascinating because this is a Native American woman. And she's going on a rant about the colonizers, right? Saying that, white people, they came and they colonized, they did this and that and the other. And what I find fascinating about it is, the Native Americans, they got restored. They do have land. They have a land of bureau and management for their people. And, she's talking about all of these atrocities going on in her community. But I'm like, who's causing these atrocities? Is it people in your community doing this, or is it people outside of your community doing this? So let's check this out.
Struggles and the movements that seek a world of justice, equality, and peace, that seek to dismantle the United States. I hope you seek to dismantle the United States. And if that isn't your politics, okay? I speak as if everybody has this commitment. And the thing is that you should listen to Indigenous people when they're telling you that this is the goal. And that not only is this the goal, but this is the starting point. Because I think Nick articulated this very clearly. Decolonization is the only thing that is going to save us as a species, is the only thing that's going to save us as a planet. And everyone should just be on board with it, no questions asked. And I say this sometimes on the podcast, our Red Nation podcast, on the co-host of Red Power Hour, of the most oppressed ass people in Turtle Island, Indigenous women are like on the top of that fucking list, okay? And incarcerated at higher numbers, murdered at higher numbers, missing at higher numbers, higher levels of rape and all kinds of sexual violence and sexual harassment. I mean, Indigenous women struggle so hard under the settler regime that is.
Now, I find this interesting because I'm like, okay, who else lives in your community? If it's a specific area for your community. So your community is this is the part I don't understand. You're in a tribal area. I didn't think anybody else could live in there. So you're saying you're the most oppressed and it's on your land. Like, what's going on with your people then? And you're talking about, we need to go against the colonizers. Okay. Well, if y'all haven't even fixed it in your land, like, what are you really calling for? It's complete anarchy. Like, this is the part that's strange to me, but let's continue.
The United States and the way that heteropatriarchy ties so closely into that. And if an Indigenous woman is telling you that decolonization is the solution, and also that there is real hope and that Palestine offers us, we said this in the speech, Palestine is the alternative path for Native nations. And this is because we understand Palestine and the liberation of Palestine is the tip of the spear, right? It is a righteous struggle, and it is so powerful that it has literally, in 60 days, changed the entire world. The entire world has changed. I knew it the moment that it happened, that nothing, and I mean nothing, for colonizers or for any of the good, humble people of the earth would be the same ever again. And we need to lean into that. Lean into the fact that colonizers are scared. Lean in to scaring them and making them feel uncomfortable, right? It is because we have power.
Wow. Okay. In my opinion, spoken like a true leader of a cult. Because it's like, if you don't think this way, no, no. Like I said, how did Palestine come into your conversation? And we're talking about the United States. Like you're again, this is ideology. This has nothing to do with governance. You want complete anarchy, not governance. You don't want people to actually be afforded any goodness in life. You want complete anarchy. I feel bad for the people of Palestine, but they do not have a solidified government. As far as I know, I'm not really into that conversation, so I'll say allegedly. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any more information on what's going on with Palestine. I know that there are people there that are suffering, right? They're not a part of the government structure. I don't think they should be bombed into oblivion, right? Nobody should be. I don't like everything that Israel's government's doing, and I'm definitely praying for the people of Israel that they are okay, because we still forget that their government called all of them to be inoculated during the pandemic. And if they weren't, they suffered consequences. Oh, yeah, that happened. But now Israel's like, hey, United States, you need to support us, especially the Christians, because we're Israel. No, it doesn't work like that. You're not even a Christian country. Christians make up less than 5% of your country. But we're all supposed to just cape for you because you're Israel? Stop that. Now, that has to do with the government. And I don't like it that they are making that into a conversation of theocracy, because we are not a theocracy. We are a republic here in the United States. So what are we doing? Yeah, there's a lot of questions on that. I'm just saying. So just to cover a little bit about what she was talking about, because it kind of, like I said, it threw me off, because I'm like, Indians have gotten their, I won't call it reparations, but they've been restored on this land. You know what I'm saying? The United States was like, yeah, we did y'all wrong. So we are going to give the indigenous tribes of this country, we're going to make sure there's a Bureau of Indian Affairs, which does exist. We are going to ensure and make sure that you have repair, right? So the video features this professor, Milani Yazi, and she's an indigenous activist. She was speaking at a panel discussion. She advocates for decolonization and dismantling the United States as a settler regime, emphasizing ongoing harms to Native Americans, such as higher rates of incarceration, murder, disappearance, rapes, and sexual violence, particularly against indigenous women. Again, who's living in your community? Is it just you, or is it other people? That's the part that you're not answering. So she links this to a broader liberation struggle, including Palestine, and calls for making colonizers uncomfortable. However, the video does not mention or outline the specific benefits or reparations provided by the United States for historical wrongs against Native Americans. Instead, her rhetoric implies that existing measures are insufficient or non-existent, justifying radical action. Okay, so I just wanted an outline of what's going on. So monetary compensations, these include payouts from claims, commissions, lawsuits, and acts addressing land loss or mismanagement. The historical awards exceed several billion dollars, though per capita amounts have often been modest, less than 1,000 per person in some cases, but they are still getting paid from the United States government that she wants to dismantle. Let's go on. So, Indian Claims Commission, 1946 to 78, it established to address grievances over seized land and broken treaties awarded to 176 tribes. Um, Bans based on historical research. Funds were distributed to groups or individuals, often for tribal projects. Now, the amount and the impact, it was 1.3 billion total, equivalent to 10 to 15 billion today, adjusted for inflation. So they get an adjustment within this repair. Okay. Critics note tribes had limited control and it didn't restore sovereignty fully. Okay, but there's still something there. So if they want to fight for more, but according to her, she wants to dismantle the United States government. So what are we doing? So you dismantle the government, you're not getting anything. Nothing. Nothing, ma'am. Let's continue. Now, Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971. This settled original land claims in Alaska, created native corporations, and provided cash plus land. 963 million plus 44 million acres of land to 80,000 Alaskan natives led to economic development, but also corporate exploitation issues. Now, the Navajo Hopi Rehabilitation Act of 1950 funded infrastructure, education, and economic development for Navajo and Hopi tribe after land disputes and relocations. They got 88.5 million over 10 years, supported soil conservation businesses and off reservation employment. So they got employment on and off of their reservations. Now there's the trust fund mismanagement settlements of 2016. So resolved lawsuits over federal mismanagement of tribal resources, royalties from mining and grazing. Okay. So they were awarded 492 million to 17 tribes, part broader 3.4 billion in the Obama era settlements for 100 tribes. And again, she wants to get rid of the colonizer. She wants to dismantle the United States. Okay, but y'all getting paid. I'm just saying, I don't understand your argument. What's going on? Pueblo Land Acts, okay, compensated Pueblo tribes for lost lands due to non-native encroachments, and that was in 1924. They got 1.3 million plus land title adjudications disputed as undervaluing losses. And then there's the Zuni tribe settlement as of 1990 for land loss and damages from erosion, mineral extraction. They got 25 million for lost land plus 25 million for damages plus 25,000 acres returned and a trust for sustainable development. So you have an office, Bureau of Land Management, you've gotten restoration. And if you want some more, I guess you can get it because you've gotten it. Okay. I guess you can still go for more, but you want to dismantle the United States that, I'm not saying that they were perfect, but I am saying that they are trying to restore you. What's your issue? And who's committing all these crimes against these indigenous women? Who's living on your land? And if it's your own people, then y'all need to have a meeting. This has nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. This is your people. You need to have a meeting. Y'all need to get together, have a Zoom call, do what you need to do. But don't try to destroy the rest of us for your ideology and your cult mentality. Because for you to sit there and act like, well, if you don't believe this, really, ma'am, y'all have a whole office in the Department of the Interior. Stop it. Stop that. Okay, I'll make sure to link this in the repost to give you more of what they're doing. But they've got land returns, sovereignty recognition. Stop. Stop. I don't know what your argument is. I, I don't know what you're upset about, but it sounds like there's an issue in your house that you need to deal with. And it has nothing to do with the American people because y'all got paid. Don't want to hear it. You've got land. And again, if there are injustices that you still feel that you're entitled to, apparently y'all know how to get this done because you've got stuff on the books getting it done. So hey, continue. I'm just saying. It's awkward. Now, the next article we're going to get into, you guys may or may not have heard about this occurring. I just found out about it yesterday. But apparently, there was a situation with ICE in Minnesota and a young woman apparently accusing ICE of abusing her. I'll just say that. She accuses them of hurting her, throwing her on the ground. Remember, I said throwing her on the ground. But apparently, she spit on one of the agents. Apparently, she was born here in the United States. She is of Somali descent, so maybe her parents were refugees that came here and all that. And there's some laws that other people need to know that may not be from this country. You can't spit on other people. Okay, that's a federal crime. It is a crime. It is a federal offense. I just need people to know that. Just need you to wrap your head around all that. You can't spit on people. Okay, it's illegal here in this country. I know maybe in your country y'all can do all kinds of stuff. And apparently she's never been to Somalia, so I don't know where this disrespect comes from. But apparently you need to teach your people how to be more respectful, especially if they are claiming to be American citizens. Okay. Just saying. I'm just saying. Because I find it fascinating for people to be like, I was born here and you are so disrespectful as an American. Like, get it together. Get it together. But let's check this video out. And that's what we spit on him. Now, everybody's standing. This is her right here, apparently. Or somewhere in this crowd. Do you guys see anybody on the ground? Anybody need to be picked up from the ground? I'm just saying. Still not on the ground. She's still walking. She's still on your feet. On her feet. On her feet. On your feet. Okay. All right. On her feet. The entire time. And this is the video that they're showing on X because her claim is that they threw her on the ground and all this other stuff. Did you guys see anybody on the ground? I did see somebody get spit on because they kind of recoiled back like, what? What's going on? Yeah, you're getting arrested if you spit on anybody, especially a federal officer. Like that's happening. But apparently she's going to the store and she was going to pick up her seizure medication. And I guess the ICE agents were dealing with two other individuals. And she's saying she just got somehow caught up. No, it looks more like you were messing with the ICE officers because you spit on somebody. Like, what is wrong with people? It's interesting. Okay. So apparently this 23-year-old of Somali descent, she was born in Hennepin County, Minnesota, and raised in St. Paul. She has no criminal record, okay, and she lives in an apartment complex. I'm not going to say all of this because it's already in there. She is described as 5'4", 112 pounds. She lives with her father named Muhammad Ahmed, On the 14th of January around 11 a.m., Ahmed was leaving her apartment complex to pick up her medication at the pharmacy when ICE agents who were targeting two Somali men in the area whom she did not know intervened. Okay. So it's interesting because the way it's written here in Grok, it's kind of like, I know they're pulling this from a story and they're trying to summarize it. So it's like, was she intervening with these other two individuals that she didn't know, apparently? But she did insert herself in a situation where she shouldn't have been, because why are you even near the ICE agents? If it's nowhere near your car, like, why are you even in the proximity of them if you're supposedly going to the pharmacy? That doesn't look like they're in the way of the pharmacy. There's no pharmacy there. It's a parking lot. So what are you doing? And why are you there? And I really hope we get some cell phone footage um of a more up close and personal situation so we can get some audio visual of what's going on, because she's claiming that they abused her and all these other things. I didn't see anybody push her on the ground, but she did spit on somebody. Okay. And according to her accounts, they surrounded her, shoved her to the ground, pinned her down with knees and elbows. Anybody see that? Handcuffed her and used significant force, including one agent allegedly using the N word as a racial slur, which is weird. Okay. Neighbors filmed the incident, showing more than a dozen masked agents forcing her into a vehicle. Now that we did see, but it only took like maybe three of them to get her in the car. She's 112 pounds. Like, she ain't fighting nobody. So Ahmed reported screaming and crying as it was her first arrest. She was placed in the vehicle with another woman described as Native American and injured, where they held each other in fear. I don't know how you're holding each other in fear because you were locked up in handcuffs. So I'm not sure how that's happening. Like, none of this makes sense. You saw the video. The video is not even lining up with what this says, because apparently she was on the ground. Did you see anybody on the ground? She's 112 pounds. Nobody needs to wrestle you to the ground for nothing. These men probably bench press 150. Okay. You're 112 pounds. Stop that. Stop. Okay. So we're gonna continue to go down. So these are the images. This is the scar that she's claiming she received from the ICE agents that wrestled her to the ground. Her scab. Okay. She kept talking about her scab in the video. So I asked by video footage. Yes, there's video footage. That's how I found the video footage. I did. And then I asked another question. It said, does she have any connection to Ilhan Omar? She does not. Okay, I'm just checking, right? Does she have any connections to anybody? Right. So she doesn't have any connections to Ilhan Omar. I said, what is she being accused of? Why was she arrested? Okay. So she was not formally accused of any crime, and she was released without any charges. Okay, because she's a US citizen. But later on, she may get charged for spitting on somebody if they decide to, in my opinion, further prosecute. So I did ask, was she accused of spitting on agents? Yes. There are public claims and circulating video clips alleging that Nasra Ahmad spat or appeared to spit on one or more ICE agents during the incident. Okay. This has become a point of contention online, particularly on X, but it has not been formally confirmed as an accusation by ICE or DHS in any official statement. So no charges were ever filed against her for assaulting, spitting, or on any related offense. So it's allegedly that, it's alleged that she did it, but it hasn't necessarily been confirmed. So we'll wait. We'll wait to see what's going to happen with this case. And I said, is she affiliated with any organizations? I wanted to find out, is she with, maybe the NAACP, ACLU? Is she working with anybody like the unfortunate mother who lost her life, Renee Good? She was affiliated with, some different associations. We didn't know till afterwards. So apparently, no, there's no evidence that Nasra is affiliated with any organizations, activist groups, or advocacy networks. Okay, so I just wanted to check and make sure, because sometimes when people are acting in those ways, they're doing it because they know that they have the backing of other groups. Now, for broader context, Minnesota includes organized resistance of ICE operations, like groups like COPOL, ACLU Minnesota, uh, IAD, Leads, Immigrant Defense Network affiliates, or Neighborhood Watch efforts. Okay. So coverage frames her incident as an example of alleged racial profiling during Operation Metro Surge, sparking community outrage in Somali areas, but she is portrayed as a private citizen victim rather than an activist or member of any group. Here's my thing. How did you get to where, from your front door to where the ICE agents were, if you were on your way to get your medication? Why are you even over there? What is your motivation for even being over there if you're supposed to be doing something else? And you have seizures, apparently, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? You're not well. Praying for that, right? That you get better, that you are, that you are healed from that. But why are you there? Like, why are you putting yourself in harm's way? There's no reason for you to be over there with any ICE agents if you're supposed to be picking up your medication. And those are the questions that we need to find out. Like, that's what we need to figure out. Like, why are you even over there? Ma'am, these individuals doing some of these things, I'm telling y'all, it's interesting. But again, happy Friday to everybody. And Rob says she's probably spit after they had accosted her. Let's find out the sequence of it. Yes, it does look like she is swarmed by the agent. Yeah, I mean, and it's weird. Like I said, I get it that they all kind of come around her, but why are you even there? If you are going to pick up medication from the pharmacy, that's not the pharmacy. From the vantage point of the person taking the video, it's a very large parking lot. Why are you over there? Where, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could have walked around it. You could have took, another sidewalk. Hey, even if you wanted to record what was happening at a distance just to document, hey, this is happening, to two other people that are of Somali descent in the area. You could have did that, ma'am. But no, why are you there in their midst? Because they're not going to look for you. They're in the middle of the parking lot. It's that part. It's that part we want to make. We are gonna hopefully find out one day soon. We'll see. Hopefully, there are closer up recordings with some audio visual. You know how things happen over the weekend. So we'll see. Now, this next video I'm going to play, this was interesting. Apparently, someone of Somali descent, they were arrested and they were pleading to get deported as opposed to sentenced.
Committing fraud on a massive scale and using daycares as your cover-up, this court sentences you to 30 years in state prison.
Can you just deport me, please?
Absolutely not. You'll do your full sentence here and will be deported afterwards.
Okay. So judge shut that down. He was like, no. Nope. Not getting out of incarceration. Because deporting somebody, they're still free. You know what I'm saying? Without any sentencing. But at the same time, I'm like, we paying our taxes for this nonsense. Can we just send them to El Salvador? I'm okay with that. He can serve a sentence there. And then he can get deported. So, yeah. You don't necessarily have to be in jail here. Because we do outsource to El Salvador. And I am totally okay with that. Maybe that might stop people from doing anything. It's like, yeah, you go to jail, you're going to go to El Salvador and be in prison. I think people they might think twice about crime. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Because we want people to be rehabilitated, obviously. But I don't know, when you get into that kind of crime and you're used to deceiving people in that way, I'm not sure what your rehabilitation looks like so that you are a functioning member of society again, where you're not going to commit those types of crimes again because it was so easy for you to do it in the first place. So we'll have to see really how that plays out. Let me get back to my notes because sometimes I just get ahead of myself a little bit. I wanted to go over, I got about 2 more videos about some more of this fraud, and then we're going to take a quick break and reset. But here's some more fraud that's been going on.
That's my property, all of it. You can't just open it like that.
We followed procedure. The bag flagged on screening. We
No,
need to
I'm
document the
begging. It's
contents.
cash for my family. Do you hear me? I send it home. You touch it, you will be arrested.
I know my rights.
I know why.
Please keep your hands clear. We're recording.
Okay, apparently this is about $800,000 that she just thinks that she can just go through the airport with. Actually, you cannot do that. But see, people have been allowing them to get away with it for so long and no one stopped them that's why she's fussing. She's fussing because they've been doing this. But now that everybody's like, they're really doing this? Yes, they're really doing this. They've been doing this for, maybe close to over a decade, getting away with it, by the way. And now everybody's on it like, wow, okay, well, maybe we should stop them. Yes, I even have another video of it, and I'll just attach that as a bonus video. But this is going on, and it's sad. It's like, no. Anything over was like $10,000. You can't travel with over $10,000. It's questioned. And you're taking that money to Somalia. You're taking it out of the country. This is my property. Ma'am, this is U.S. currency. No, absolutely not. And I don't know what's happened with this individual, but I hope that she is arrested and deported. That's just, look, we need some law and order up and around in here. I'm just saying. Here's our next video on it.
There are Somali couriers who come to the airport almost daily with $1,600,000 in cash and a luggage. That sounds a little suspicious, right? It was going on daily, and they were moving about $350 million a year in cash in their luggage out of Minneapolis Airport, and then traditionally or predominantly overseas. One of the routes that the TSA saw the money go, it would go from Minneapolis to Europe to Dubai, often through Amsterdam. It was flagged for years. TSA was flagging these payments for years. They grew from $20, $30 million a year to $350 million a year the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025. It was literally a foreign ATM taking cash out of the United States to foreign destinations, and we don't know the reason why. But that is now under investigation by the FBI and HSI. And people say, well, is this normal?
No, it's not. It isn't normal, but it was normalized, right? Because it has been allowed. And we need to find out who was allowing it, why they were allowing it, because TSA has been in place, since 9/11, right? Since the early 2000s. So they were tracking it, they were flagging it, but there weren't any consequences. Now that there are consequences, like I said, I can understand why this woman is fussing because they've been doing it for so long. It's like, why are you stopping me now? I've been doing this. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot that needs to be dialed back, right? There's going to be a lot that needs to be reorganized because no, we're not going to let you just take $800,000 out of the United States to ship it to wherever. And we don't know whose hands the money's going to be in. No, not going to be a thing. Not going to be a thing. So with that, let's take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get into some more of this news going on in Minnesota. And then also just check out a few pieces of legislation that have gotten passed by the House. But thank you for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we're back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And this is our last day of broadcasting 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So with that, we're going to go into our next article. And this one is talking about some of the fraud going on, but also what's happening as far as the incident that happened this past Sunday at the church in Minneapolis.
He's a Fox News contributor and a retired NYPD inspector. This thing feels like it is growing. What did you think about the interview from the jail?
Yeah.
Can we take it seriously?
Here's the thing. Obviously, she has an incentive to say what she's saying. She's looking at 30 years. She's very involved with this. The danger for the people she's talking about, Waltz, Fry, Ellison, and others, is the fact that she can serve as a pointer. Whether we choose to believe her or not, it comes down to...
And the her that she's talking about, this is Amy Bach, and she was involved with the Feeding Our Future scandal that happened. That also, they were part of the whole $250 million fraud that happened.
A grand jury, or ultimately, if it goes to trial, a petit jury, a jury of her peers, 12 people, potentially believing her testimony relative to these other people. But when you have somebody like this that was on the inside, we always called it in intelligence a pointer. She's there to tell you as you go through a mountain of emails, a mountain of communications, which we know they serve subpoenas to get, those subpoenas for documents, right, including electronic documents. As you ferret through a mountain of stuff, if you have a quote-unquote pointer to say, no, forget about that, look over here, saves you a lot of time, it helps focus the investigation, and sure, they might have to cut a deal so that she has less time in order to testify and all of that, but that's how cases are made. Anybody who's ever seen a mafia movie knows that.
It seems like a weak defense. I kept asking, they kept giving, and it's their fault, not mine.
She's not getting out of it.
By the way, $250 million stolen allegedly. About $75 million has been recovered. So there's a lot of money out there that someone has illegally. Now we got some breaking news, Paul. I want to get to that on a Fox News alert because moments ago, remember that church incident on Sunday in Minneapolis? The AG Pam Bondi posted this. All right, I'm reading now. Minutes ago, at my direction, HSI and FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. So far, we've arrested we'll come back to that. So far, we have arrested Nikema Levy Armstrong, who allegedly played a key role in organizing the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. We will share more updates as they become available. Listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship, end quote. I want you to react to that, Paul. But on Monday, Trish McLaughlin was on with Dana and me. And part of her answer said, I think we will be seeing mugshots very soon. She was tipping her hand that arrests were on the way, and this is the first one that's been made.
Yeah, and look, there's going to be very, very little that they can do in defense of this because it's on film, and for once they didn't cover their faces. Now here is the thing that's going to come out of this. You have her under arrest, now you're going to get the communications. And this is where it starts to spider web out. You start to see who was talking to who showed up in regard, including Don Lemon. How much did they all know going in? That imports things like conspiracy charges, which can be quite heavy. There's criminal civil rights charges that are implicated in the church incident.
This is also because one of the things that we found out about that was that they were targeting them because they were privileged white supremacists.
We talked about that earlier in the week. Not only did that come out in the video and that they said something like that in the church, but then after the fact, Lemon talks about exactly that, putting a racial overtone in the whole thing, which potentially could import a hate crime. So this
There's
was
another
really
thing
badly
about this, the woman that they've just arrested. I talked a little bit about this on the 5 yesterday because Cam Cawthorn, he writes for Fox Digital, and he had a piece about her. So she's been doing professional protesting and organizing for a long time. She gets a lot of grants from different nonprofits, and she's always made more money than she has spent. So like there's a financial incentive for her. There's a business model for these types of things.
We've talked about this really since I've been on the network. One of the things that I've tried to sort of bang the gong on that I think a lot of police who do investigations see that the public doesn't see is that there is a job, career protester. And it has developed over the last, let's say, dozen years or so into a very lucrative industry. And you have people who do this for a living, make a ton of money. Yes. They weaponize people who don't know any better. And to use the Leninist term, useful idiots. They're looking for any cause in the world. They get them out of the campuses. They grow those groups and those institutions. And then they pick out people who want to stay in that world, who don't go back to East Cupcake and get a job eventually after college. They stay in that. They become the middle management, and it grows and it grows. It's very much like any other industry. The problem with it is if you dig down deep enough, you find out that there's tax money going into all of this stuff.
Yeah. Keep in mind, she said so far, so that would indicate more to come.
There's more coming.
Thank you. I mean, trespassing at a minimum. I mean, you were not invited in. That's not your property.
At the state level, where's the minute? Well, by the way, this is St. Paul. Where's the St. Paul chief of police?
Fair point.
I'm Steve Ducey.
Yeah, because the police are non-existent, unfortunately, in parts of Minnesota. And that's not going to absolve them from criminal prosecution, right? It's not. This is weird because, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, the KKK Act, they literally, there's an act on the books to protect at that time and for anybody, protect Black people from the Ku Klux Klan coming into their churches, specifically churches. Okay, so not businesses, not their homes, specifically their places of worship where worship is actually protected. So whether you're in a church or a synagogue or a Tibetan temple or a mosque, if you were on U.S. soil, even I gotta say it, even the Satan worshipers, right? Even people that worship Lucifer, Luciferians, people that worship Baphomet, those religious services are actually protected. So people can't, Christians couldn't just go into the house of Baphomet and be like, you need to stop worshiping Satan, because they could be arrested. And I know that sounds like really wild and really crazy, but it's really true. You can't do that. Just because you don't like what's going on in that place of worship, just because you don't agree with who's a part of that place of worship, you can't just go in there and overrun their services. Now, if you want to be across the street protesting and say, hey, we want to bring it to light, we don't agree with a member of this church also being a member of ICE, you are okay to protest all you want to across the street and have fun with that. Okay. But you cannot go inside their building. And that's what we're all talking about right here. Don Lemon, you're going to prison. You are going to serve some jail time. I know you're a little bit of a slippery fish with that first one. You kind of got out of that first one, but they're still trying to get you prosecuted. And you will. You are going to serve some time. I don't know how much time it's going to be, but you're probably going to serve a minimum of 5 years. You might get off with some good behavior, but you're going to serve time. This is going to happen because there's footage of you beforehand saying what they may or may not be up to, but you did allude to the fact that they are organizing. You did allude to the fact that there were white people there so that you guys could run cover as Black people under them. So that's actually conspiring. Okay. How did you get there? Who knew you? Who invited you? Somebody invited you. You didn't just show up there randomly. Yeah. This is going to be interesting. What happens? He's making himself a pariah. I don't know what's going on with some of these individuals who call themselves journalists or reporters, but they're making themselves pariahs doing this. Like Dan Bongino, he's made himself a pariah. It's very sad because there were people that actually had more, had respect for him and listened to him. Now, since coming out of the FBI, I don't know. There might still be some people that go. I'm not. But I did want to, in short, talk about a little bit about Miss Armstrong, who is a civil rights attorney and activist. So this person that has been arrested for she's an attorney. So you would think, and a civil rights attorney at that, you would think she would know about the Ku Klux Klan law. You would think she would understand that what she was doing was completely illegal. But then again, she's the former president of the Minneapolis NAACP chapter, who has been also associated with Black Lives Matter protests. So guess what? They have a legal defense fund with the NAACP just for incidents like this. So the money's there to get her out of jail. Maybe it'll get her at home until she runs trial, but she's going to prison. Just understand that. Just because you have a legal defense fund, that's not going to keep her out of prison. It might get her sitting at home with an ankle bracelet till she has to go on trial, so she can't leave the country. You better shut down all passports. All passports need to be revoked right now. So nobody just accidentally ends up in Cancun or wherever. Okay? Somewhere in the Bahamas, chilling. Nope. You got to be here. Or you'll be extradited. Something. Just saying. So the protest, we know about the protest, the charges. She's being charged under Title 18 U.S. Section Code 241. It's a federal civil rights statute that prohibits conspiracy to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the free exercise of their rights, in this case, religious worship. Bondi described the event as a coordinated attack on a place of worship and emphasized that such actions would not be tolerated. Noam reiterated that there is no First Amendment right to obstruct religious practices, and they're right, because there's also something called the FACE Act as well as this title code. So what they did, completely wrong, and they conspired to do it. They coordinated it. You can't do that. Again, if they want to be across the street within a reasonable distance to protest outside of the church, they are totally more than welcome to do that. It's gross, but they can do it. But you can't enter the church and do that. So this spectacle, if they really thought they were doing a good thing, all of you are going to end up in prison. And I'm here for it. I like it. I want every single one of you in jail. I want you to be made an example of. I mean, if we can get 20 years in federal prison, I like it. And then we need to go after the NAACP who's supporting actions like this. And they need to be put in prison too. Their whole situation needs to be abolished. And anybody that was supporting this and condoning this, go after them now. Shut this down. What are we waiting on? These people are blatantly in our face violating the law. And we're just sitting back like, okay, no, prison time. I want to see it. I really, really want to see it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't know about you guys, but we have a lot to pray for this Prayer with Friday. Now, this does coincide with what's happening in Minneapolis, but this is a kind of a side story. So apparently there were parents and they made the claim that ICE basically abused them and their children and, brought in all these flashbangs and all this stuff, but they apparently left their children in the car while they went to protest. And they did this GoFundMe. Like, it's messy. Let's just say that it's messy, and we're going to have to see it play out. So these are apparently in the video, the parents right here. It doesn't have any sound. It's just playing. But they have a GoFundMe where they've raised over $100,000, stating that they were harmed by ICE. But this footage is of them actually at a protest without their children that they allege that ICE harmed. So you lied on federal agents to enrich yourselves. Like, I don't know. The grift deliciousness knows no end. It is really bad how people are grifting off of the American people and off of the heartstrings, I should say, of people who really, they don't want to see people harmed or injured, especially their children. But what are these people doing? It's really crazy. Now, this next article that I wanted to get to, it's not necessarily an article. It's actually a bill that has been passed by our Congress. Some good news, finally. And it is called the Supporting Pregnant and Parenting Women and Families Act. It's a bill that was introduced by Michelle Fishback in January of this year. And it was referred to the House Ways and Means Committee. The bill, it amends Part A of Title IV of the Social Security Act, okay, related to temporary assistance for needy families, TANF. It clarifies and provides explicit statutory authority for states to use TANF funds to support pregnancy centers, also called pregnancy resource centers. These centers must support protecting the life of the mother and the unborn child and provide resources such as relationship counseling, parental and pregnancy education, pregnancy testing, maternal supports and diapers, baby clothes, services for mothers and fathers and families. Okay, here's my thing. This sounds great, but it needs to have some guardrails, because what we don't want to see is what happened with a lot of these social programs that we are finding all this fraud on, people coming in and defrauding these programs. This should only be for U.S. citizens, first and foremost. If you are not of the soil, you cannot have this. If you are here on visa, green card, if you're not a naturalized citizen, even if you are a naturalized citizen, I don't think you should be entitled to this. Being naturalized, you got to be one generation outside of that. So if you just got here like, oh, I'm naturalized, I want all this stuff, no. Because that's the problem with a lot of these programs. It's set up and it looks really wonderful and great to help people, right? But then it gets abused by people. So who is it really helping if it's going to be abused? So again, I hope they put some guardrails in place so that not everybody is getting this, but only American citizens are getting this, not just every pregnant person, if that makes any sense. And so I just wanted to show you guys here on congress.gov. Here it is, HR 6945, because I'm definitely glad that they want to support pregnant women. Now, it did pass in the House, okay, on the 21st, and they've got 15 co-sponsors who are predominantly Republican. Interesting, there's no Democrats on here, because you would think the Democrats would be, part of this. The people that they're bringing over here, some of them are pregnant, but apparently you're not doing that. Yeah. So interesting, like I said. And it says, what it is. I've already read you that part. So it's on its way to the Senate. Will it pass? Maybe. But again, there needs to be those guardrails put in place so people cannot abuse the system, because that's what's been happening. And we don't want to see that. Okay, now I was watching Alex Jones yesterday. You guys know I'll chime in on Alex. And there was a video by a woman. She's at the time the CDC director, and her name's Carol Baker. She said something really shocking, but I'm just going to let her say it, and then we'll talk about it.
The battle is being fought, one family, one physician, one health center. That's why we're doing as well as we are. We're talking about the minority and strategies against the minority. So I have the solution. Every study published in the last 5 years, when you look at vaccine refusers, I'm not talking about, well, hesitants, most of them we can talk into coming to terms, but refusers. We'll just get rid of all the whites in the United States because Houston is the most diverse city in the entire United States. There's 7 Asian languages spoken in that city. I've been a minority for more than 20 years in the city of Houston. The majority is, we call Hispanic. That is not a race or an ethnicity. That is a political designation. But a lot of them are from Central, South America, Mexico. Guess who wants to get vaccinated the most? Immigrants.
That's what made Donald Trump's comment about bringing disease here so funny. They're at risk when.
You know, what's interesting about that, I have to pause that, because if what she says is true, then why did Biden specifically write legislation under HHS to ensure that the people that did not get inoculated were nurses and people migrating here to this country? So if what she says is true, I don't think so. They don't get inoculated. They don't. Caucasian people do. Black people do. So what is she really talking about? It's interesting. Because when you say white, there are a lot of Hispanics. And you're like, okay, that's a political designation. Okay, we'll leave it as a political designation. Those are Latino. They identify as white. So what are you saying? It's interesting.
They come here.
Immigrants.
Better vaccination rates in Mexico.
It is the well-educated, in terms of pieces of paper that they put on their wall, people that have been here a long time, and it's very unfortunate. But I think we need not lose the big picture. Yeah, we need not lose the big picture. We just need to eliminate white people. That is disgusting. I don't ever want to eliminate anybody. Like, what? And she was a chairman at the CDC. And that's what you're thinking? That's how you're thinking? At CDC, the Center of Disease Control? Yeah. RFK had gone in there and upset their whole apple cart. They are mad at him. He took away vaccine protections, changing the schedules, just flipping tables. They don't even like it. Now, that was from 2009. But I think that's really, it's very telling. How they're like, oh no, we just need to get rid of this particular group of people because they don't want to get vaccinated. Huh? But now, you got to throw black people in there too, because we're just like, no, we're not going to be your lab rats. No. Not going to be your pincushions. And that's why you had to mandate stuff. That's why you had to say, it's a mandate. It's still not a law. And that lawsuit needs to happen. That needs to happen because we need to have true legislation on the books that stops these individuals that are on a power trip to demand people be on their ideology, right? Because when the science shows that some of this stuff doesn't work and that it harms people, then they want to go back and be like, well, we didn't know. No, you knew. You knew, and you were still fighting for people to do this. And you were oppressing people that did not want to be inoculated.
Now this whole thing with COVID-19, now y'all are all in a pickle because there are no protections for anybody, for anything. I love it. I absolutely love it. But the most difficult thing is, and I had studied this when I got my paralegal degree, is finding out if you were injured, what did you get injured by? Because one ingredient can have 9 different ingredients in it, and you have to prove what actually harmed or injured you. But see, they know that you will be able to find it. That's why a lot of these vaccine companies, they've backed off. They're mad. There's no lobbying that they can do. There's nothing they can do because there's no legislation that can be put in place, because that protection was literally something that falls under HHS, and they removed it. It's been stripped. It's done. But in my opinion, it needs to be codified into law. That's what needs to be put into law, that any vaccine manufacturer can be held liable for their product, period. Whether it's pharmaceutical or vaccine, you're going to be held liable. You're going to stop using the American people as your guinea pigs, and basically as part of your profit center, right? Because if you have messed up food and water that causes illness, and you say, hey, take this pill, but this pill causes another illness, and then you have to go to the hospital, and then the hospital gives you treatments, not a cure. They're just going to continue to treat you until you die. And which is going to come first, bankruptcy or death? I mean, that's the wheel. Okay? That is the wheel cycle of economics built around human beings. And it's disgusting. And people are fighting to try to change it. I brought up RFK, but for what he's doing, it's great. But we still have to, as the American public, do our part, right? Make demands, especially in our localities, that you are not going to poison us with our food, that you're going to get things off the market like a peel from Bill Gates. You're going to stop giving us fake meat. They've put all these fake meats into different restaurants. Do you know the difference? Because if they didn't tell you, would you know? It's that part. They don't have to tell you anything. You've already decided, hey, I'm going to go to Outback, and you think you're eating a steak. What if it's not? What if it's one of those steaks that was made by a 3D printer? You don't know. And that's the part that we need to demand as a public and say, okay, we need full disclosure. If you are going to serve us stuff like that, we need to be told better. But, to anybody who's Caucasian that listens to my show, for this individual to say that, again, that's back in 2009. And the reason why they brought Donald Trump up is because that was the time that he was, gearing up to run for president. To say that you want to eliminate a people, I mean, that's just hurtful. Because I don't want my own people eliminated. So I definitely don't want yours eliminated. Like, what are we doing? But we have people like this in positions of authority. And we need to make sure we know who they are, where they are, right? And do what we need to do to make sure that they don't harm anybody. Because my goodness, so sad. Now, this next video, this was something else that came up. So apparently, Obama did a speech while he was running for president, where he brought something up very interesting that they are actually accusing Donald Trump of doing.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well-funded.
Okay, a civilian national security force. So would that be a militia? But that's what they're accusing Donald Trump of with ICE. Now, just understand that ICE was put in place after 9/11. to deal with immigration enforcement because we did not have enforcement in immigration. We did have measures to deport people. We did have measures to denaturalize people, but we did not have enforcement. And so this is where you get ICE, right? But they're calling ICE what Obama was referring to is this civilian. They're not civilians. They're actually federal agents. Okay? They have a job to do. And they did it under him. When he got in office, he was what? Deporter in chief, over 3 million people? I like those numbers. Look, I want to get up to 10 million. Okay? Everybody up off the soil. Y'all got to go. You are not making it better here for anybody. It's really sad. It's really sad because you would think with the technology that we have, with all of the resources that we have and the things that we can do now, all we've gotten is more people skimming and fraudulently abusing the system as opposed to making it better. Not a good thing, guys. It's just not a good thing. So with that, I want to get into some of these articles from all sides. I have to keep going back and forth to my other screen. So, wow. Okay, so some good news. U.S. homicide drops by 21%. It's the lowest level since the 1900s. I think that has a little bit to do with people that have been removed from the country. Okay, I think that's a good thing. So the Council on Criminal Justice found 2025 murder rates dropped 21% compared to 2024 and could be the lowest number since the 1900s. So after examining violent crime in 35 cities, the report found a decline of 11 of 13 major crime cities between 24 and 25, with 9 crime categories falling by at least 10%. So carjacking rates fell the most with a 43% decline, followed by robbery at a negative 23%, gun assault 22%, homicide 21%, aggravated assault 9%, and domestic violence 2%. So the report noted that when nationwide FBI data is released this year, the 2025 homicide rate could fall to about 4% per 100,000 residents, which would be the lowest record rate since the 1900s. And the largest single year percentage decline on record. Drug offenses were the only crime category to increase, with a 7% increase, while sexual assault crimes remained the same. And that's sad. We need to do better with the sexual assault crimes. But interesting that the drug offense were the only crime category to increase. Yeah, because we still have the mafia that's allowed to walk the planet and do whatever they want to do. You're not locking up people. And it's like, yes, I do understand we are going to have crime because there are people that they're just going to commit crime because they want to. I don't know. But why aren't we locking up the people that we know are committing the crimes? Is it because they own the judges and the politicians and the police? Yeah. We know who owns you. Politicians. We know who owns you. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to fix this? Or are we just going to let this be like, yeah, well, they've been doing it for this long, so we're just not going to mess with it? Nah. You need to lock them up. All of them. Get them up off the streets. Get the drugs on the decline. Okay? Shut this down. Because it's not going well for everybody. And you still keep trying to destroy certain communities, right? With this poison. It needs to stop. Now, I find that fascinating. It says drug offenses were the only crime category to increase. Why is that? Because when all else fails, you can always continue to have that supply, right? Have people strung out, kind of doing whatever you want them to do, right? They'll kill for it. They'll do whatever you say to get that fix. Right? Why aren't drugs going anywhere? And we've had so many wars on drugs. But it wasn't about the drugs. It was about incarceration, locking up a particular demographic of people. Yeah. Now, for context, violent crime rates have been falling after an increase during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the report, overall fatal violent crime fell 5% between 2019 and 2025, with cities with the largest pre-pandemic homicide levels experiencing a decrease of fatal violent crime by negative 36% during this time. So some of these cities include Denver, Washington, DC, Los Angeles, Albuquerque, Atlanta, Baltimore, and Chicago. So this is how the media covered it. Outlets on the left emphasized crime rates had only been dropping over time. The Atlantic, which is left biased, outlined possible explanations, included sharper policy strategy, more police overtime, low unemployment, the lure of digital life, the post-pandemic return to normalcy. It focused on the role of policing, saying staffing and strategy vary widely from place to place. So policing can hardly explain gains that are so widespread. So the New York Times that leans left changed the idea that dropped the challenged, the idea the drop was due to President Trump's policy. It cited his deployment of the National Guard to target unauthorized immigrants, which it said dampened pedestrian traffic and other activity. Outlets on the right, including Fox News, the Daily Caller, credited Trump's law enforcement policies. The Daily Caller quoted White House spokespeople who said President Trump was delivering on his promise to make America safe, and that this is what happens when you have a president who fully mobilizes federal law enforcement. The Hill, which is center, quoted the CCJ president saying the drop could be due to criminal justice policies, programs, and rhetoric, big advances in crime fighting technologies, and big social, economic, and cultural shifts all happening at the same time. And here's what I go back to. We don't have to have crime. We have crime because people are benefiting from it, period. And a lot of the large cities that were, where crime went down slightly, they were benefiting from the crime. They still do. You think, well, how do they benefit? Well, if you keep the prisons full, because you get money for the prisoners, you get grant money, you get federal funding, you get city funding. You get state funding to keep people locked up. There's a jail, I guess it's in Atlanta, and it's so disgusting and off the chain. People are dying inside of there. They have drug dealings going on in there. Nobody's being rehabilitated in that prison. There's all kind of nonsense going on in there. So what are we doing? Are we really rehabilitating people? Why is there so much crime is the question. And it's because we have basically decided we're going to have an uneducated society. And we do. We should have more educated people per capita as much as we spend on people, but we are, graduating people that can't even read. They don't even understand the basics, but they're graduating from high school. Some of them are graduating from college. Yeah. So what's really happening? What's the real end game? Right? Societal collapse, maybe? I think so. Let's see. What do the latest do? Yeah, I don't want to read that. Okay, so let's find out. So what is remaining for these Epstein files? Because as somebody said weeks ago, it's like we're focused on this and that and this and that. Ain't nobody talking about Epstein. We've moved on. This whole Minnesota Don Lemon situation. Anybody talking about the Epstein file? No. Things happening with ICE. The unfortunate, situation with the lady that got shot a couple weeks ago. Nobody's talking about Epstein. No one is talking about this. Oh yeah, that's right. The Clintons, they were subpoenaed to come to Congress and refused. What is gonna happen there? Nobody's talking about it. That's what's happening there. Yeah. Nobody's talking anything about that. So, according to the Department of Justice officials, more than 2 million documents relating to the Epstein case have yet to be released, meaning less than 1% have been released since the Epstein Transparency Act was passed. Now, Americans are not satisfied. CNN, that leans left bias, conducted a poll suggesting that 6% of Americans are satisfied with the information released by the DOJ thus far, and nearly 9 in 10 Democrats, 72% of independents, and 42% of Republicans believe the government is intentionally withholding information. The EFTA, signed into law by President Donald Trump in November, required the DOJ to release all files by December 19. Now, that was last year. What you doing, Pam? What you doing? Because everybody goes, it's Trump, it's Trump. He's not sitting there doing administrative work. Calm down. Stop that. That's not what he does. He signed it into law. What's happening with the DOJ? Why aren't they releasing it? And then when they did release some of the documents, they could be unredacted through a notepad on Apple. And then they had to retract some of those documents because they had to figure out like, oh yeah, that y'all are paid to do a job. Really? Just sad. So crushed by a workload. So Time Magazine, that leans left, reported that partial releases and the heavy redactions made to any of the documents that have been made public, right, have sparked outcry from politicians, survivors of Epstein's abuse, and the public. The article highlighted lawmakers' frustration over the lack of files being released. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer slamming the DOJ for their blatant disregard of the law. Other outlets like Politico, that leans left, focused on the top federal prosecutors who are crushed by the workload of combining thorough workload of combing, through the files to redact information about Epstein's victims before releasing the documents publicly. Because who are you trying to protect? You're not trying to protect the victims. You're trying to protect the victimizers. Let's just be clear. They could have released all this stuff a long time ago. Who are you protecting? Who are you hiding? And the longer the DOJ looks like they're the people sitting on this, but they're not telling you about some of the courts that are blocking this as well. And you're not going to find this out on all sides, but it is happening. There are courts that are blocking the release of some of these files. Even though signed into law, everything's supposed to be released. Yeah. So the article, quoting unnamed sources familiar with the scale of work, saying the task is stretching prosecutors too thin and pushing their work to be the back burner at that, while people in the office hope the task will take no longer than a few months. No one is really sure when it will be completed. Now, News Nation, that centered, echoed the issue of workload, highlighting Representative Anna Paulina Luna, saying the delay is because the DOJ is being careful redacting victims' information. Again, Are we really protecting all the victims, or is this about protecting the victimizers? Okay, because a lot of those people that victimize those young women, they got the politicians in their pocket. Stop that. Stop it. We get this. I think the general public understands and realizes that these delays are not because you're trying to protect the people that have been abused. You're protecting the people that have abused them. And people might sit back and go, why are you saying this like that? Because why aren't they in prison? I'll wait. Prince Andrew, yes, he abused somebody. Yes, he was found guilty. Is he in prison? He's not in prison. He was stripped of his title. He's not in prison. So do you think anybody else is going to prison for what they did on that island to these young women? I'll wait. Because if that were true, they'd be in prison already, and they're not. That's the problem. Like I said, and like I've been saying on these Epstein files, if no one's going to jail, why are we here? And at this point, it's just grandstanding. It's just symbolic. If no one's going to prison, it's symbolic. I don't care about the files being released. Release them. Are you going to put anybody in jail at the end of the day? And if you're not, this is all a ruse. It's all symbolic, and it means nothing. And those young women that were abused, and there might be some young men in there, we don't know. Okay, allegedly. Where is their true justice if these people are not going to be put into prison? You're just okay with them running around the planet abusing everybody else, and they've been doing it for decades. And you're okay with it because they're not in prison. So I don't want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it. Absolutely not. Now, Fox News on the right reported on a bipartisan effort led by Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie to participate in a Misi Surai of Friends of the Court, requesting that a judge appoint a special master to oversee the release of the files. So we're just going to create more government. Okay. We still ain't going to arrest nobody. Got it. So U.S. District Judge Paul Ellingmeyer, in a 7-page ruling on Wednesday, denied the request over a lack of the court's authority to supervise the DOJ's compliance with the EFTA. The ruling noted that Ellingmeyer received letters of support for an independent monitor from Epstein victims and said both the representatives and the victims' questions are undeniably important and timely, while adding that they raise legitimate concerns about whether DOJ is faithfully complying with federal law, but cited again the lack of authority or jurisdiction for the court to enforce supervision of the DOJ's compliance with the EFTA. And they're right. They don't have any authority. They don't. It's not their job. Now, if it's a law, Congress, it's your job. Duh. The president signed it into law. Who makes the laws? Congress, House, and Senate. Can you, House and Senate, make demands on the DOJ? You sure can. You can tap dance on their nerves all day long and then say you have to abide by the law that's been put in law by your boss, by the way. You don't run around to a court who has no jurisdiction over you. Duh. Like, what are we doing? What are you doing? If y'all don't get it together, just a mess. It's messy. You know better. But you want to make people feel better because they may not understand the law or how any of this works. Well, the court said, you got this. Passed by the President of the United States. It is in law. hold them in contempt. What are the repercussions in the law if they don't abide by it? Like, did anybody put any guardrails in this? Is anybody thinking? I mean, it's mind-boggling to me that we have people, and some of these people are attorneys, by the way. You know what you're doing. You know what you're not doing either. Okay. Just a mess. Okay. Let's get off of that. Because I'm trying to get some stuff up because there's a lot that we need to pray about. Okay. But I just got to bring it to you. But there are just some things that I'm just like, the nonsense. It needs to stop. Oh my goodness. Just trying to think. I know there was a couple of headlines that I wanted to go over with you guys. Maybe I hit them already. And congratulations to the Vance family. They are expecting another little person. Congrats to you guys. Yep. He's still talking about Greenland, you guys. He is really, really wanting Greenland. It's kind of crazy. We talked about tariffs the other day. He talked about how he said ICE may make mistakes, which is really, it's true. They're human beings. Interesting. Now, I did come across this because a lot of people have been bringing up DEI, and I was in a, I don't want to say a space, but someone had brought up DEI and affirmative action and saying by getting rid of them, it's hurting Black people. Well, they were never really put in place to help us. They were put in place to help other people because other people actually benefited from affirmative action and DEI, but they used our face. Now, DEI is far more nefarious because people keep looking at it like, oh, it's like affirmative action. No, it's not. It's a part of what's called an ESG score, which they have in the United Nations. So an ESG score, let's just look at the ESG score like a credit score. Okay. And the more DEI programs that you facilitated, the higher your ESG score is. And basically, a part of the United Nations club, you're going to get a little bit more preferential treatment, we should say, as a corporation, because it doesn't fall necessarily on governments, it falls on corporations, individual corporations. But what they do is they will ding people, right, if they don't have these DEI programs. And people that are part of ESG know this. That's why they're still fighting to keep this in place. Okay, so I just want everybody to understand that background, because I know people are like, well, Donald Trump deemed DEI illegal and he's getting rid of all of it. And it's unconstitutional because DEI is unconstitutional because it has nothing to do with our Constitution. It's all about the United Nations. Okay, so you've got to tie it back. So people standing around whining and crying, oh my gosh, DEI is gone. It was never helping Black people anyway. They just used Black people to be the face of it. So everybody will feel sorry. Like, oh my gosh, we have to help the Black people. Okay, we'll do this. Stop. It was hurtful. I'm glad it's gone. It needs to be abolished, but they need to tell the true story about it and stop just saying it and call people out that are trying to keep it in place and why they're trying to keep it in place. Yes, universities too, because you got to remember these universities, they're not just government entities. They're not government entities. They're private organizations. They get government funding, right? When people have their Pell Grants or their federal student loans, that's the government type money that they get. And they also get subsidized by the government. But they're private institutions, which means they deal in the public sector. Okay. So these DEI programs, again, they're attached to this ESG. So on Monday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, declared over 100 diversity, equity, inclusion programs to be unconstitutional. Paxton said the DEI guidance issued in 1999 by Senator John Conroy was unlawful, citing a 2023 Supreme Court decision that found race-based affirmative action policies in university admissions to be unconstitutional. Paxton said the court's opinion goes beyond a narrow holding limited to university admissions. Some legal experts are arguing that the Attorney General cannot unilaterally overturn Texas state laws by declaring them unlawful. So this is definitely going to be a back and forth. Now, in a statement, Paxton said it's imperative that all private sector employers, schools, and state local government entities, based on this legal opinion, immediately abolish and any DEI, affirmative action, or unconstitutional discrimination programs under their authority. We must return to the basic principles of equal opportunity for all. Now, on X, Cornyn posted, "You'd think a competent attorney general would know that what I issued more than 25 years ago was a reaction of incomplete guidance due to litigation, not an opinion. There's nothing for him to overturn because nothing was issued. So this is yet another waste of time and taxpayer dollars by the Texas AG showboating for attention." Now, Paxton is running against Cornyn, who was Texas's attorney general from 1992 to 2002 in the March 3rd Republican Senate primary in Texas. So the story was not widely covered by the media, though some news sources noted in their headlines that Paxton issued the opinion on Martin Luther King Day. Wow. So was he grifting on the other side, Mr. Paxton, just using this? So very interesting. But see, DEI really was not helpful for anybody. I can't say not helpful for anybody. There were people that benefited from it. Just Black people didn't benefit from it. And Black people were used as the face of it. Affirmative action, same thing. Now, a lot of people can say, well, affirmative action did work for some people. It worked for a very narrow subset of people. But at the same time, the way it was used, it still harmed everybody else who didn't benefit from it. Right? Because it was like, it's race-based, it's quota-based, right? We got to have at least 10 Black people. So it doesn't matter if they're smart or not. We just got to have 10 of them. This is how people say Ketanji Brown Jackson got to be a Supreme Court justice. It's like, she just needed to be Black and a woman. And she was going to be like, those are the qualifications. Like, we don't even care if she's smart. Well, she doesn't know what a woman is, but she's a Supreme Court justice. So the DEI help anybody in that? I don't think it helped anyone, because that's scary. Okay. Again, we have a constitution that says all men are created equal. If all men are created equal, why do we need affirmative action? Why do we need a Civil Rights Act if all men are created equal? But nobody wants to answer that question. Everybody just wants to kind of stand around and when you say that, go, well, yeah. And those are the things we need to pray for. The people come to the realization, it's like, look, about merit. I don't care what the color of your skin is. Can you do the job? Are you qualified to do the job? I don't care your orientation. I don't care about the melanin in your skin. I do not care what gender you are. Can you do this job? And can you do this job without forcing your ideology on other people? Just saying. Can you just do your job? Be a decent human being. I mean, can you do that? Is it possible? I think that's what we need to get back to. So, with that, let's get into our prayer as we pray Thanksgiving and cover going into the weekend. So, God, thank you so much for this prayer with Friday. We're praying for prayer and Thanksgiving going into the weekend. I know that there are some of us in certain parts of the country that may experience some different weather challenges, and we are praying that those weather challenges are mild. Father, we pray that anywhere that there's supposed to be heavy snow, that it's a mild snow or a mild winter mix, God. And please keep people safe if we need to, be inside to be safe. Just please look after each and every one of us. And we're so grateful and so thankful that you've given us life, God, that you've given us the resources that we have that we can share with others and continue to share with others. I know that we are praying for Miracle Sunday that's happening at our church here with Stockbridge Community Church, God, and just praying that the miracles that we've been praying for these past 21 days, that people are having breakthroughs and that you are answering their prayers. And I know that some have been answered. Children who've been estranged from their parents have returned home. Individuals that have been trying to have children, they've gotten pregnant, God. People that have been praying for jobs, Father, you've blessed them to have the jobs that you want them to have, that where their skills and abilities can be used beyond measure, Father. And we're just so grateful for everything you've done and everything that you're going to continue to do, God. We're so grateful and we love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray and give thanks. Amen. So with that, we're going to end the stream for today's broadcast of Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, everyone, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.